Have you ever wondered what makes a story unforgettable? It's not just about the plot or the characters, it's about the world that holds them. A staggering 65% of readers say that a well-built world can make them forget they are reading a book or watching a movie. They're living the story. That's the power of immersive storytelling. In this series, we'll delve into the art of crafting rich, engaging story worlds that resonate with audiences and stand the test of time. From the cobbled streets of a bustling medieval city to the stark beauty of a distant planet, every setting has the potential to be a gateway to adventure and emotion. Join me as we explore the secrets of turning ordinary backdrops into extraordinary worlds, where every detail counts and each element enriches the narrative. Learn how perspectives can shift realities, backstories can shape futures, and cultural tapestries can color experiences. Are you ready to become not just a storyteller, but a master world builder? Let's start the journey. By the end of this series, you won't just be telling stories, you'll be inviting your audience into them. Ready to dive in? Chapter 1: The Gateway to Imagination. Setting the scene. Why do some stories draw us in and refuse to let go? The secret often lies in the setting. Picture the foggy streets of Victorian London in Sherlock Holmes' Adventures or the sprawling, mythical lands in The Lord of the Rings. These aren't just backgrounds, they're foundations that shape the entire narrative. A great setting can do more than paint a picture, it can speak. Think about Avatar's Pandora. Its every detail was so rich that viewers felt they could step right into the screen. A 2010 study from the University of Rochester found that detailed environments in stories activate the same regions of the brain that are involved in processing real-life settings. This means when a setting is well crafted, our brains believe we're part of that world. It's not just imagination, it's immersion. Creating such a world doesn't happen by chance. It starts with seeing the setting as a character itself, one that's as crucial as your hero or villain. How does this environment challenge the characters? What secrets does it hold? The answers to these questions can drive the story forward and deepen the audience's investment. For example, J.K. Rowling's Diagon Alley isn't just a marketplace. It's a gateway into the wizarding world's culture, economy, and history. It's a simple concept, but think about how it sets the stage for everything in Harry Potter. Here's another nugget. When George Lucas was creating Star Wars, he was inspired by both the futuristic cityscapes of Metropolis and the wild frontiers of Western films. This blend of the familiar and the fantastical invites audiences into a new experience while offering a comforting touch of the known. So, when you're crafting your story world, think about what makes it tick. Is it the eerie silence of a deserted city or the bustling noise of an alien marketplace? Each element should add to the narrative's tone, influencing emotions and reactions just as powerfully as any dialogue. Chapter 2: Architects of Fantasy. Building worlds from scratch. Building a world from scratch is like playing God, but even gods need a blueprint. Start by deciding the rules of your world. What's possible? What's impossible? And most importantly, why? Consistency is key. In Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin created a world so detailed with its own seasons, politics, and geography, that it feels tangibly real. He knew that to sell the fantasy, he had to nail the details. Did you know that Tolkien spent years developing the languages, histories, and mythologies of Middle-earth before writing The Hobbit? This deep dive into the fabric of his world made it alive, vibrant, and incredibly engaging. As writers, when we understand the inner workings of our worlds, the stories unfold more naturally, and the audience gets pulled deeper into the narrative. Consider using real-world influences to add authenticity. Many creators look to history, mixing elements from different cultures and eras to create something new yet believable. For instance, the popular video game, The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim, draws heavily from Norse mythology, which not only influences its aesthetics but also its lore and character names. This isn't just about looking cool, it's about creating resonance. As you build, think about the sensory experiences of your world. What does it smell like after it rains? What's the texture of the ground underfoot? These might seem like small details, but a 2016 survey by the National Endowment for the Arts showed that books providing richer sensory experiences tend to be read more thoroughly and remembered longer. Lastly, remember that every choice has a ripple effect. If your world has magic, how does it affect daily life? If it's set in a galaxy far, far away, how do the different planets interact? Your decisions create the domino effect that keeps the story dynamic and unpredictable. By grounding your fantasy in reality and ensuring every detail serves the story, you craft not just a world, but a living, breathing universe that your audience can inhabit. Keep it logical, keep it intriguing, and above all, keep it consistent. Chapter 3. Through the Looking Glass, Perspective and Depth. Ever wonder how the same story can feel different when told from another point of view? Perspective in storytelling is like a camera lens. It can zoom in on a character's thoughts or pan out to reveal the broader world. The choice of perspective can turn a familiar setting into a maze of intrigue and mystery. Consider The Great Gatsby. Nick Carraway isn't just the narrator, he's our eyes and ears, filtering the jazz age and its excesses through his Midwestern sensibility. This choice of perspective makes the Roaring Twenties seem both glamorous and hollow, a dual vision that adds layers to the narrative. It's no coincidence that F. Scott Fitzgerald chose Nick's outside-looking in perspective to deepen our sense of immersion and reflection. In your stories, play with different angles. How would a tale unfold if told by the villain instead of the hero? Or by a bystander? Each shift in perspective can open up new realms of exploration. For instance, in To Kill a Mockingbird, the story is seen through the eyes of young Scout. This innocent perspective brings a poignant contrast to the heavy themes of racism and injustice, making them even more striking. Here's a fun fact. Research shows that changing the narrative perspective can significantly affect the reader's empathy and engagement. A study from the University of Toronto found that first-person narratives tend to increase empathy because readers connect more deeply with the characters' inner thoughts and feelings. Use this power wisely. Mix first-person intimacy with third-person breadth to give your audience a complete picture of the world you're creating. Remember, your choice of narrator can transform the landscape of your story, making familiar scenes new and vivid. Chapter 4. The Lore Masters. Integrating backstory without overloading backstory is essential, but like a strong spice, too much can overpower your story. How do you sprinkle in your world's history without stopping the narrative in its tracks? It's all about balance and integration. Show, don't tell, as the old writing advice goes. Instead of halting your plot to detail a war that happened 2 centuries ago, have your characters walk through an ancient battlefield, noting scars in the landscape and relics left behind. This method reveals history while keeping your story moving and the scenery engaging. Dialogue is another clever tool. When characters discuss past events or share old stories, they do more than converse, they breathe life into the lore of your world. Remember how J.R.R. Tolkien uses the Council of Elrond in The Lord of the Rings. It's a meeting that serves as a strategic discussion for the characters, but for readers, it's a deep dive into Middle-earth's legendarium. Yet, subtlety is key. A character mentioning a past king or an old battle in passing can pique interest without overwhelming the reader. According to a Pew Research Center survey, stories that seamlessly integrate background information are more likely to keep readers engaged because they maintain narrative flow and intrigue. Moreover, consider environmental storytelling. A city's architecture, the design of a spaceship, or the worn paths in a forest can all tell silent stories. When characters interact with their surroundings, those elements of the backstory naturally come to the forefront, enriching the reader's experience without a heavy-handed history lesson. Each piece of history should serve a purpose, enhancing understanding or driving the plot. Your world's lore is a treasure chest, not a toolbox. Use it to add mystery and depth, not just because you can. Chapter 5. Cultural Tapestry. Diversity and authenticity in story worlds. Creating a world that feels real and relatable often means weaving a tapestry of diverse cultures and experiences. When your story world mirrors the complexity of real life, it not only enriches the narrative but also resonates more deeply with a broader audience. How do you do this effectively? It's all about thoughtful inclusion and authenticity. Start by exploring various cultures beyond your own. Incorporate elements from different societies, but do so respectfully and accurately. For instance, the epic fantasy series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, integrates influences from Inuit, Japanese, Chinese, and Tibetan cultures. This not only adds depth to the story but also appeals to viewers from various backgrounds, as evidenced by its global fanbase. Engage with cultural consultants and do your homework. Did you know that Disney's Moana involved extensive research and collaboration with Pacific Islanders to ensure the cultural aspects were depicted correctly? This commitment to authenticity helped the movie connect emotionally with audiences worldwide, celebrating the rich heritage it portrayed. Reflecting diversity isn't just about adding characters of different backgrounds. It's about letting the unique perspectives influence the story's events and its world. This approach can lead to more nuanced and multifaceted narratives. According to a 2019 survey by the Cooperative Children's Book Center, stories with diverse characters and settings are increasingly sought after for their ability to educate and inspire empathy. Remember, diversity also includes different abilities, ages, genders, and sexual orientations. Each layer adds color and texture to your world, making it more immersive and believable. As Toni Morrison once said, the function of freedom is to free someone else. In writing, this means crafting stories that liberate and acknowledge all voices. Chapter 6: The Ripple Effect. Actions and consequences in dynamic worlds. Every action in your story world should have a consequence. This not only heightens the drama but also reinforces the world's realism. When characters' decisions lead to tangible changes in their environment or society, it creates a dynamic, evolving story that keeps readers engaged. Think about the butterfly effect in chaos theory. A small change can have large effects elsewhere. Apply this to your storytelling. If a character in a story set in a drought-stricken world discovers a source of water, how does this affect the surrounding settlements? Does it lead to conflict, or does it inspire new alliances? Show how the political, environmental, and social landscapes shift as a result of your character's actions. In Game of Thrones, every decision has far-reaching impacts on the political dynamics across Westeros. This constant evolution keeps viewers on their toes and deeply engaged, proving that unpredictability can be a compelling storytelling tool. Consider the consequences not just for the immediate players but for the broader world. A conflict over a throne can lead to war, affecting economies, civilian lives, and even the geography of the land. A peace treaty, on the other hand, could usher in a golden age of prosperity and innovation. Finally, make sure the scale of consequences matches the action. Minor missteps should not unravel entire kingdoms, unless that's the point of your story, just as monumental actions should not pass unnoticed. Consistency in this regard will maintain your world's integrity and keep your audience invested. By thoughtfully considering the ripple effects of actions within your story, you can create a living, breathing world that feels as unpredictable and complex as the real one. This not only captivates your audience but also keeps them thinking about your story long after they've turned the last page.